Hi, let's work on an application on all the leverage we discussed so far, including the break-even point concept. So let's work on this application, and you are given some data here, and you have sales. This business is going to sell 20,000 units at a price of $60, so this is going to be your price for $1,200,000 sales. Variable cost, that's total variable cost, which is units, the same units, times variable cost per unit. So that's the one you are going to use for variable cost per unit. Fixed cost, that's total fixed cost, 400,000. Earnings before interest and taxes, interest expense, that's going to be I, the one you need for degree of financial leverage. Earnings before interest and tax, earnings before taxes, income tax expense, that's the tax, 30% applied to earnings before taxes, that's going to come up to 45,000. And this is earnings after taxes or net income. So you'll have to calculate degree of operating leverage by using the formula for degree of operating leverage that you have and we discussed. Degree of financial leverage, degree of combined leverage, and break-even points in units. And if I give you this application for the midterm exam, I'm also going to ask you to interpret the results, not just do the calculations for each of the calculations. So let's start. Degree of operating leverage. We are going to use these formulas, quantity and times price minus variable cost per unit. And here quantity times price minus variable cost per unit minus fixed costs. And remember, I pointed out to you that's your price, that's your variable cost per unit, and those are number of units, and this is fixed cost. This is all you need. You see? Price, variable cost per unit, fixed cost, and quantity. So you do all the calculations and you end up with a degree of operating leverage at 3 times. That's your result here. So then you have to interpret. You can interpret it right away, not necessarily at the end. So what does this 3 means? That means that if I increase my sales by 1%, my operating income is going to increase by 3%. Or if I increase my sales by 2%, my operating income is going to increase by 6%. That's the degree of operating leverage. For B, we have to calculate degree of financial leverage. And for the formula was, if you remember, earnings before interest and taxes, which is 200,000, divided by earnings before interest and taxes, 200,000, minus interest expense, 50,000. So that's the formula here, and this is what we have. 200,000 divided by 200,000 minus 50,000. Finish up the calculations, and we have 1.33 times. Again, what's the interpretation for this number? Well, remember, degree of financial leverage gave us a relationship between operating income and earnings per share. So if I increase my operating income by 1%, my earnings per share will increase by 1.33%. Or if I increase my operating income by 10%, my earnings per share will increase by 13%. I multiply by 10. That was the degree of financial leverage. Degree of combined leverage, the shortcut actually is to multiply degree of operating leverage 3 times degree of financial leverage 1.33, which is going to be 3.99, close to 4. 3.99 is approximately 4 times. Or you can use this formula and you end up with the same result. Either way, you have a degree of combined leverage of 4 times. So what's the interpretation of this number? Well, degree of combined leverage shows the relationship between sales and earnings per share. So 1% increase in sales will increase my earnings per share by 4%. That was the leverage application, and now let's calculate break-even point in units for this business. Break-even point formula is fixed cost divided by price minus variable cost per unit, or contribution margin here. So my fixed cost is given for 100,000, my price is 60, my variable cost per unit is 30, so I end up with a break-even point in units of 13,333 units. The interpretation of this number is for any level of production higher than this level, I make a positive profit. For any level of production lower than this level, I'll make a loss. I will assign much more problem solving for you on all these concepts we covered in this chapter.